The Giants signed center fielder Harrison Bader to a 2-year deal, 20.25 million or whatever it was. And I think he's going to be their starting everyday center fielder. And the discussion is now, what do you do? Where do you move Jung Hoo? More than likely, you move him to right field. And now all of a sudden, what was a pretty lackadaisical defensive outfield, Elio's going to have to shape up a little bit. We know he had a down year defensively, but this other side of the outfield, there's some really exciting things to think about there because Jung Hoo Lee knows center field. He knows half of right field because of having to cover triples alley, and now he can utilize his strong arm out in right field and play there, and he doesn't have to worry about so much coverage out in center field. Let Bader take that, and I think that side of the outfield is going to be pretty dynamic. Now, I was kind of hoping that you could move Jung Hoo to left because I think if Jung Hoo could play left field, he could probably be close to a Gold Glover. But
Yeah.
still, the way that this situates is going to be so much better than it was last year. And now, if you're Luis Matos, you're like, all right, guys. Drew Gilbert will still get some opportunity because he's
Sure.
got some speed. But if you're Matos, you're like, all right, guys, what am I gonna do? Well, it's like, dude, you just gotta crush left-handed pitching and you'll get some ABs there.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the Bader deal?
I think that's great. Speaking of Matos, I think that might make him expendable. I mean, you might be able to add him in a trade, sweeten the pot, for CJ Abrams if the Nationals are interested in Luis Matos. But I think that's fantastic. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that this is my type of player. I'm very excited about Harrison Bader in center field for the Giants at Oracle. It's going to be really fun to watch. I thought, and all the talk was when Jung Hoo Lee was signed was that he was a good defensive center fielder. Well, that that didn't quite pan out. I still I'm not going to I'm still going to point this out every single time, but we got a bashing review on our podcast about somebody said, I was enjoying the podcast until they mentioned that Jung Hoo Lee was not good in the outfield. They don't know ball, basically. And then you look at it and at the end of the season, he ended up being one of the worst center fielders in all of baseball. And that's unfortunate because he makes some great plays, right? I mean, he makes some fantastic plays, but there are a lot of baseballs that he should get to that he just does not. So having him in right field, a bit of an adventure. I want him to get on the phone with or have Hunter Pence coming out to come on out to the ballpark and talk
maybe
with him.
maybe he had a maybe he also had a good relationship with baby Yaz, and I can ask him for some tips
Exactly.
because
Hit
Yaz
him
was
up
maybe
and
the best guy that we saw.
he was absolutely, and I mean the key to the right field at Oracle is you need to know how to play the ball. I mean that's the biggest thing. You do have a lot of room to cover, but if you're positioned correctly by the coaches, I think that's going to help out a lot. And I think that's going to be a key this year. I was reading some stuff that they're talking about this coaching staff really could squeeze out some more outs with better positioning, and apparently we were not very good with positioning our outfielders the last couple of seasons, and then with a difference maker in that on the coaching staff and having that be a factor going forward. If you've got Bader and you've got Jung Hoo Lee, and then if I mean another one who was really rough was Heliot Ramos, and
Mhm.
I've got their numbers here. Their fielding run value on Baseball Savant. Um, we're not going to look at catchers because they're kind of a whole different category. Patrick Bailey led the world in fielding run value this year. But Willie Adames and Matt Chapman had a +4, which is good. It's not fantastic, but it's very good. Yaz was at a 0. Fitzgerald was at a 0. And then you go all the way down. Jung Hoo Lee was -2. You go all the way down to the bottom of the list. Heliot Ramos -11 fielding run value.
Yeah.
And you get Harrison Bader, and he's a +5. So now all of a sudden, just by signing him today, he is now your best FRV guy on the team. on the entire team, better than anybody that they had last year in the lineup. So, um, pitching and defense is something that is preached by this team in and out every single year, and especially in that ballpark. I don't have a problem with it. I think that's great. You got to make sure it plays in other ballparks. So if you have a guy like Bader, he can play in any ballpark. You don't have to worry about, well, he's gotten used to Oracle and he plays really well in Oracle. But as soon as you go to Dodger Stadium, or as soon as you go to, Houston or San Diego with their bigger yards, he has a tougher time. But that's not Bader. Bader plays well in every ballpark. So I think it's a huge move. And $10 million a year is nothing. I mean, that's, he was predicted to get 16 million a year when the offseason started. So to get him at 10 a year, 10.25 a year, I think that's fantastic. The Giants' patience pays off once again. Does it make them a wild card team? I guess that's the biggest question. I'm going to say at this point, no. I still would love to see one more arm in the rotation. I want to see one more arm in the back end of the bullpen, and I would feel better about that. But having Bader in the lineup, you'd think a guy like that too, who's scrappy, plays great defense, puts the ball in play. You think he'd steal more bases. He was 11 for 18 last season in stolen base attempts, which is really, really bad. So if they can get him to steal more in key situations and get maybe 25 bags.
Yeah, his stealing numbers were a lot better when he was younger.
Right.
And some of this, I wonder, I don't know really the trajectory of his career, but it seems like he's gotten a little bigger and stronger as he's
Right.
gotten a little older, because he had a career high in home runs and RBI and on base and slugging and OPS all last year.
Yeah.
Now, you would hope that means he is kind of figuring things out as he becomes an everyday player, because previously, he was a guy who would play 100 games, 120 games and get 350 at bats max. But he played the most he's ever played last year, split between, I think it was Minnesota and Philly. And what I wonder is, if he can continue that level of what he did last year, because if he goes backwards a little bit to, just a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, his, those years offensively were not great. So you just hope that what he showed last year is what is still to come in his career. And, he made his major league debut, like, I don't know, it was like 8 or 9 years ago. So it's not like he's, an old guy, but he's also not a young guy either. So he's kind of right in this prime of his career, maybe a little bit after his prime. And you hope that he has sort of figured some things out, because of last year was his best year overall. He had 1 year that was pretty darn good earlier in his career, but it wasn't, he didn't have as many games played. Defensively, though, is hopefully where he just shows out, because you look at these pitchers and they're just like, my goodness, if I get the ball up in the air at Oracle, I have no idea what's going to happen. And you want them to have confidence in the team's ability, because we know you got Gold Glover at third base. Willie Adames is I would probably say he's average. If you have Schmidt at second, he's probably a little bit of, he's probably around above average, though he's a third baseman who's got to play second. And we'll see about Rafi Devers. Like, I think Rafi Devers is going to be pretty darn good at first, but he's never been an everyday first baseman. So that's also something. So defensively, the infield is pretty solid, and you want the outfield to be pretty solid. You have the best catcher defensively in the league as well. So that should shape things out defensively, and hopefully they can get so much better than they were last year.